A group of children in a faith formation class were asked to depict and to draw this particular gospel reading. And so they took their time and they were very diligent in drawing. And then when they were finished, the teacher, the catechist, looked at all of them. And this one little boy brought his depiction of this gospel reading up, and he drew an airplane. And so the teacher said, well, I don't quite understand. There were no airplanes in the time of Jesus. And the little boy said, well, isn't this called the flight into Egypt? Well, on the plane, there were a lot of people. It was packed with people. And so the catechist said, well, I can see that Mary and Joseph are there. They're kind of sitting, they're sort of in the middle. They were not in first class, but they were kind of there in the middle. And then I see that there's somebody kind of driving the plane. And she said, well, who is that? And the little boy said, that's Pontius the Pilate. You see, we say his name every week at church, don't we? From the mouths of children, there is always a good sense of a different perspective and a different sense of joy. Our gospel reading today really is a wonderful opportunity for us to reflect upon the beauty of protection of the family and of God's presence in the family. When we look at Mary and Joseph and the Christ child, they really, from on the outside, were not any different than other families of their time. But something that was very important to them in their family was the gift of faith. It was the beauty of faith that wove them together so that in the midst of their sufferings and in the midst of their joys, they recognized the presence of Christ. And so Joseph paid attention to these dreams that he was having, and he did what he was instructed to do, and that was to ensure that the presence of Christ was protected in their family, that it was not watered down, that the presence of Christ, that the child was someone special. And it's a message for each one of us in our own families, that when the Lord is present in our family, when he's present with us in not only our joys, but also our sorrows, we can be assured of having the great gifts of the Lord, of having the gift of hope, of having a love that very much is sealed together. And how is it that we go about protecting the presence of Christ in our families so that we can be a holy family? This isn't the only holy family that exists, but there are other holy families, and that could be your family. And that depends on how is it that you have a vision for your family? How is it that you see the spirituality of your family? It is up to the parents, or today we have many single parents, so no matter what the makeup of your family is, perhaps you are a blended family. Perhaps you're a family that's undergoing a lot of stress at this time and in need of healing. No matter what situation your family is in, you can always have a vision for the spirituality of your family. What does it mean to have a family that is holy? What does it mean to have a family where you're not individually just seeking the presence of God, but you're doing it together? Perhaps you're here at Mass today on your own, and the rest of the family is at home sleeping in, having breakfast at First Watch or Kiki's, or maybe they are getting ready to watch football games the next 5 or 6 days. And you're kind of wondering, well, how do I make my family holy? Know that your presence here today is very important, that your example can help to bring the grace of God into your home, to be able to bring the presence of Christ that you received today in the Eucharist and to bring it into your home so that your home is what we call a domestic church. That your home, this isn't the only temple that exists in this area. This isn't the only place where God dwells. He also has the opportunity to dwell in your home. And how is it that you put that forth in your home? By making sure there is a standard that is set. There are other two readings today give us some guidelines on holiness, on really how a family can function, and to function in a healthy manner. And there's a lot of nudging that goes on often in these particular readings today. But there's a message for mothers, for wives, for fathers, for husbands, but also for the children too. Know that there's a lot of responsibility there because it does say in the first reading from Sirach Take care of your parents when they are older. Make sure that you care for them, that you love them. Listen to your fathers and to your mothers as well. Our second reading has a little bit of the optional paragraph that's there. And yes, we did read the optional paragraph because we never cheat God out of his word. And in that particular paragraph, I know that sometimes that sparks a lot of discussion. Wives, be subordinate to your husbands. And husbands, you might think, wow, that would be great. But your responsibility is even greater. Because the next sentence says, husbands, love your wives. And so in loving one another, there is a relationship of a complementarity that exists. You see, in that love that you are asked to have, that's a tall order as well. And in every Christian marriage, there are three parties. And the third party is not your mother-in-law. The third party in every Christian marriage is the presence of God. It is how Christ works, because he will give you the strength that you need to be able to make sure that in your marriage and in your family, because it's a whole unit that makes up a family. And whether you are a family of one, because again, sometimes people, they're on their own. You have a family too, or you're a family of 10. It does not matter, but in your family, you can ensure that every person takes a role. Every person has a part in making your family a holy family. And in marriage and in parental relationships for children as well, it's not 50-50. If there's 4 people in your family, every person doesn't do 25% of the responsibility. Because then, folks, you're only giving 25% of yourself. But rather, in your family unit, everyone is called to give 100%. And when everyone gives 100%, there is an incredible openness to the presence of Christ. There is an incredible openness to the vocation that each has been called into. And how is it that your family is going to live that out? I consider our family to be the priests that serve our parish, that we are a family unit also in and of ourselves, in our home. And so as I hear these readings today, I wonder, well, how do we make sure and ensure that our family in the rectory, in the convent, in our community here, in our parish family, that we remain holy? And holiness doesn't mean that we're walking around with halos on our heads or like we're drifting on the clouds. Holiness, and in your family to be a holy family, doesn't mean that you have life-size rosary beads hanging from the living room wall above the fireplace. No, that doesn't make your family holy. Holiness comes from being who you are in God's eyes, from living out the people that God has created each one of us to be, and to truly be wholly other. That's holy with a W, fully other. To seek in the midst of a culture and a world a continued degradation of family life, a continued compromising of what family life is. And I think we have to make sure and ensure that we, just as in the gospel reading today, that Joseph was asked to protect the family, my friends, we also are called upon to protect the beauty of our family life. And you may say, or a child may say, well, that sounds a little countercultural today. Well, there's ways that you can make your family holy and to certainly make your unit one that is there for the glory of God. Some simple things like saying the prayer before meals, making sure that your family, whether you eat at home around your own table or whether you are at McDonald's on a particular night, or one of my favorites, Cracker Barrel, it does not matter where you are at, that you pray. What does it take to take 30 seconds to bless yourselves, to bless ourselves, and to pray? To bless the food we are about to eat, whether it was cooked by someone who was paid to make it, and we went there to patronize that business, or whether we make it at home. It does not matter. That's food from God, so we bless it. What a beautiful witness that gives to all who are around. When you walk into your home, I ask you today, when you go into the home, now it's probably at Christmas time, I'm sure everyone probably has a manger scene out or something. If you cannot afford a manger scene, I will buy one for you. but also in every Christian home. Would someone know when they walk into your home that it is a Christian home? Is there a crucifix hanging in a prominent spot? Is there any kind of religious artwork kind of hanging around? Noah's Ark in the baby's nursery doesn't really count, okay? That's kind of not quite there, and that was from the Old Testament. But when someone walks in, what does your home, what do you have on the walls? What does it say about you? Again, if you do not have a crucifix, I will give you one. I will make sure that you have one, because I think that that's important. When we surround ourselves with beauty, and when we surround ourselves with what is most important to us, well, then eventually it kind of infiltrates inside. It sends a message inside to us as well of reminders of who we are called to be. If you haven't taken a walk recently over to the Holy Family Grotto, a lot of people don't even know it exists here on our campus. It's over by the bookstore over on this side of the campus, on the north side. Take a walk over there sometime as a family after Mass. Take a walk over to the grotto and just spend a moment. We just recently put the lettering on the outside of it, Holy Family Grotto, so you know exactly what it is. And you'll look on there, and there's a beautiful quote from Pope John Paul. And it says, "The Holy Family is the beginning of countless other holy families." The Holy Family is the beginning of countless other holy families. What a beautiful invitation for each one of us today to make sure, to strive, to work. And it's not always going to be a piece of cake, but to strive at least and have a vision for having a family that is holy.